I would say that she struggles with the legacy of bipolarity and alcoholism, which she inherited from our mother.
Mariah's rep says through the years, Mariah has spent hundreds of thousands of dollars supporting Allison and her children. But Allison says she's in urgent need now.
Mariah, I love you, and I desperately need your help. Please don't abandon me like this.
Mariah Carey has been abused by her own family. Ever since she was a little kid, she's been traumatized. Her sister Alison once drugged her at 12 years old and tried to pimp her out to her boyfriend. She's also harmed Mariah by burning her skin, and then once Mariah became famous, Alison trashed her in the press. Mariah also has a feud with her older brother Morgan, who continues to expose Mariah's mental health issues and addiction. This family fight is one that won't ever end, so let's get into it. So I want to talk to you guys about the family feud between Mariah Carey and her siblings. It's well known that Mariah is estranged from her older sister Allison Carey, and there's good reason why. Even though Allison claims that she wants to reconcile with her sister, the likelihood of this happening is very unlikely. Mariah's issues with her sister and brother go way back to childhood because her siblings believe that Mariah had an easier life than they did. Mariah is the youngest of her siblings, and there's a huge age gap between them. So when she was born and growing up, her siblings were already adults. But even though her siblings are older, they claim that they suffered as children because their parents split up and Mariah went to go and live with their mother, and the brother and sister Allison and Morgan went on to live with their father. Mariah Carey's parents are black and white. Her mother is white and her father is black, and her older siblings claim that they had a more difficult life living there with their father than Mariah would have had living with her white mother.
I think they definitely always felt like I was passing. We're not even that far apart tonally. Like, that's my thing. They just grew up with the experience of living with a black father and a white mother together as a family. And I was, for the most part, living with my mother, which they saw as easier, but in reality, it was not.
So her siblings had a ton of resentment against her, and Mariah really struggled with her identity because she didn't necessarily fit in with her family, and I guess being racially ambiguous was a struggle for her.
Felt like there was nobody who could fully understand my experience because my brother and sister are a lot older than me. They went through their own drama, which was a lot worse than mine. No friend, nobody I grew up with, nobody in school could even come close to relating to my experience because you feel different. I wrote a song about it on the Butterfly album called Outside, and it's about feeling ambiguous and without a sense of belonging.
So these issues have been going on for a very long time, but Mariah does not care for her siblings because of the way that they have gone to the media and they have trashed her over the years. They have tried to discredit her success and label Mariah Carey as a monster. And I feel like Mariah has a lot of anger because of this, because she was a child put in this situation. She did not choose to go and live with her mother, and it wasn't her fault, whatever these two experienced before she was in the world. I'd also like to mention that Allison Carey has had a rough life. She's a recovering drug addict who has openly admitted to being afflicted with HIV because she was working as a prostitute at some point in her life. Allison became pregnant at 15 years old and dropped out of high school only a year later. She ended up turning to the streets and drugs to make money, ultimately leading her down a path of self-destruction.
She didn't stay home. Instead, she turned to the streets for money.
I want to ask you about one of the more difficult things in your life. How did you get into prostitution?
Nobody wanted to hire me. I didn't have any experience doing anything. I knew I had to get a job, but I couldn't find one.
Yeah.
Hello.
For her younger sister Mariah, life was far different.
So Allison clearly had a rough life. She claimed that nobody wanted to hire her, and she did some press in 1995 sharing how she went out into the streets and only a year later she was infected with HIV, which has been a struggle for her since then. Some of Mariah's fans have turned to her and questioned her on why she hasn't tried to help her sister, but there's a lot of issues here, and I want to unpack them all. Back in 1995, Allison did an interview for a few different reasons, but in this interview, she talks about how Mariah had dedicated an album to her, and she felt like Mariah was doing this to be performative, to appear like a loving sister when she was far from it. So a lot of the press that Allison has done has been aimed at trashing Mariah, but in that interview in 1995, she also had another goal, because Mariah and Allison's mother, Patty, ended up taking Allison's child from her because Allison was in a rough point in her life and she wasn't necessarily fit to be a mother.
Allison's mother reportedly took the child because her daughter is an unfit parent with a history of drug abuse. Lawyer Stephen Grossman represents Patricia Carey. He says the boy is much safer where he is now.
So there ended up being an entire legal battle because of this custody, and I did find one rare clip of Allison speaking in court about this battle.
Michael, Mommy loves you very, very much. I'm doing everything in my power to get you back. I need you in my life. I love you so much. Everything's going to be okay.
Allison's only goal is to get her son back. That was the purpose in filing the police report, and that's why we're here now.
So I wanted to give you guys some background on Allison and what she has said about Mariah throughout the years. She has said a lot more, and we'll get into some of those statements, but I want to share what Mariah has to say about Allison. Headlines read, Mariah Carey claims her sister drugged her, offered her cocaine, and inflicted her with burns at the age of 12. Mariah Carey claimed that her older sister Allison was harmful towards her when they were children. She actually came out with a book, Mariah Carey did, titled The Meaning of Mariah Carey, where she alleges that when she was 12, she was drugged and burned by her sibling, who also tried to recruit her as a sex worker. Mariah was quoted saying, dysfunctional families are ideal prey for abusers, the exposed little ones vulnerable to being picked off. So Mariah probably felt like she was one of those vulnerable children in a dysfunctional family because her siblings were grown at this point, so she really had no choices. And like Mariah has shared, when she was 12 years old, her sister drugged her with Valium, offered her a pinky nail full of cocaine, inflicted her with third-degree burns, which I'm like, how did she end up doing that, and tried to sell her out to a pimp.
But I'll read this short passage. You say, through the years, both my sister and brother have put me on the chopping block, sold lies to any gossip rag or trashy website that would buy or listen. They have attacked me for decades, you write. And you say, but when I was 12 years old, my sister, this was a story, my sister drugged me with Valium, offered me a pinky nail full of cocaine, inflicted me with third-degree burns, and tried to sell me out to a pimp.
But of course, this feud has been going on for quite some time, and Allison claims that Mariah is lying about everything. Allison denied the claims in the book and said that she was shocked that her sister would accuse her of recruiting her to be a sex worker. But honestly, I don't necessarily believe Allison. I mean, I don't know why Mariah would lie about such a specific situation. Mariah even names names, like her sister's boyfriend at the time was named John, and supposedly he was running a prostitution ring, and that she, Mariah, was tricked into spending a night alone with him, where they ended up going to a drive-in movie where he put his arm around her. She was horrified by the handgun resting against his thigh. She describes how she only escaped after another car pulled up next to them, prompting John to drive her home in silence. I also found another report that claimed that this John guy tried tried to kiss her. Not every report was the same, which I found interesting, but supposedly in this moment, he put his arm around her, tried to kiss her, and had a gun handy. Even though Mariah spent most of her time with her mother, she did share some moments with her father, who wasn't the greatest man. In the book, Mariah claims that her father was also harmful. Quote, "By the time I was a toddler, I had developed the instincts to sense when violence was coming." She recalls numerous fights between her father, Alfred, and her brother, Morgan. Quote, "It was not uncommon for holes to be punched in the walls or for other objects to go flying." So clearly her relationship with her siblings as a child was full of fear, and then once she became this star, she ultimately became an ATM to them. She was actually quoted in an interview with Oprah saying that she was an ATM machine with a wig on to her family. Quote, "Through the years, Mariah has spent hundreds of thousands of dollars supporting Allison and her children. In fact, Mariah has supported her extended family for over 2 decades. And that's very kind of Mariah to support her siblings, but ultimately Mariah doesn't owe these people anything. I mean, I understand the meaning of family, but at some point in some people's lives, their family turn on them, and sometimes it's best for that person to completely disconnect from that toxic environment. And that environment was truly toxic. Mariah Carey says that she was betrayed and mistreated by Morgan, her brother, and Allison, her sister, which she now refers to them as ex-sister, ex-brother, for the simple reason that she could never see herself making amends with either of them. She was quoted saying, "Here's the thing, they have been ruthlessly just heartless in terms of dealing with me as a human for most of my life. I never would have spoken about my family at all if they had not done it first. I have forgiveness in my heart, so I forgive them, but I'm not trying to invite anybody to come hang out over here. I think they're very broken and I feel sad for them." That is so strong of Mariah to be so forgiving, yet throughout the years, her siblings continued to shame her. In 2015, Allison became seriously ill and suffered from brain damage after a home invasion attack, which that sounds extremely traumatic. She has begged Mariah for forgiveness for the things that she's done. So Allison was a victim of a horrific home invasion, which ultimately led her into the hospital. Once she got into the hospital, Allison and her older brother Morgan decided to scheme and to film some videos to release to the Daily Mail, pretty much making Mariah look really bad because her sister Allison was in such poor health. Morgan made the video after being forced to intervene when he claims to have discovered a family member signed a do not resuscitate order on Allison if she were to have a seizure. I couldn't find the video anywhere, but in this video, Morgan says, "Allison, look at me. You're Allison Carey. Are you Allison Carey?" She says, "Yes." Morgan continues, "Today is September 15th, 2015. She says, "Yes." Then he shares, I guess, whoever this person is who signed a do not resuscitate. "Do you want to revoke that order?" Morgan asked the question 3 times and Allison said, "I do," each time. Morgan hopes that the heartbreaking video will strike a chord with Mariah and they will be able to amend their relationship, which doesn't sound realistic. It sounds extremely manipulative and gaslighting, like creating this video with the intent of putting it out to the press and I guess making Mariah feel some type of way so that she comes and rescues you. They didn't end up posting just 1 video, but 3 videos that they released to the press. And in this 3rd video, Allison is seen lucid being interviewed by one of the New York hospital staff. She clearly states her name, her date of birth, and names Morgan Carey as her healthcare proxy. So 2015 was a rough year for Allison, and according to my research, it doesn't look like Mariah ended up stepping in. But nonetheless, Allison and Morgan continued, because in 2016, Allison ended up in the hospital again. Quoted saying, "Mariah, I love you. I need your help. Please don't abandon me," which is what the headline reads. Dying sister of Mariah Carey sends a video pleading to her superstar sibling. It's really disgusting how some of the most awful people in the world are given like a spotlight or given attention just because of the success that their sibling has experienced. I mean, Allison doesn't really know who Mariah is, yet she uses her name constantly to promote herself. So Allison decided to film another video where she is begging for Mariah's help. At this point in 2016, it seems like she's still struggling with the health issues she experienced from the home invasion, plus the HIV wasn't helping her situation.
The holiday season was tough for the pop superstar's sister. Allison found herself back in the hospital again, near death, through much of December, the after effects of the traumatic brain injury that resulted from a brutal assault during a home invasion almost 2 years ago.
Even though I wasn't able to find the hospital videos from 2015, I was able to find this video she released in 2016.
Mariah, I love you, and I desperately need your help. Please don't abandon me like this.
So there was her video, and of course, Morgan was a big part of this internet frenzy as well. He claims that Allison's brain scans show that she has severe damage. Morgan added, "The worst is yet to come, and Mariah has it in her power to at least ensure a soft landing and avoid a lifetime of regret about missing this opportunity to forgive and to help her only sister. I would be hopeful, although I'm not encouraged by the past, that Mariah would step up because she's in a position to step up," which again is a lot to expect for Mariah after years of abuse. Shortly after this hospital visit in 2016, Allison was arrested again, unfortunately for prostitution, but fortunately after she was released from prison, she was able to get sober.
Carey, who was arrested and charged with prostitution in Saugerties last summer, something she claims was a misunderstanding, says she's now able to see life through a clear lens and is proceeding with a long-time goal, writing a book about her childhood, one she says was tainted by racism and the occult.
You guys heard that right. Allison was planning on writing a book about her childhood and the occult, which when I was doing my research, I found many clips of Allison speaking about satanic rituals and the occult and all of that. There was so much to unpack there. I saved it for another video. But Mariah has responded to Allison and Morgan through her representatives because she claims that she has spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on these people. She's done with her help and that they need to go and figure it out on their own.
Mariah's rep says through the years, Mariah has spent hundreds of thousands of dollars supporting Allison and her children. But Allison says she's in urgent need now.
The only reason why we know about this family feud is because of what Allison and Morgan have put out there. But Mariah did respond in a big way with her book, and she added a lot of context to their accusations.
And a sister who, I don't know, how would you describe your sister?
I would say troubled. I would say traumatized. And I try to be thoughtful about that. Although I don't know that the same courtesy has been extended to me from anybody that that caused certain traumatic events in my life.
So in this video, we have been focusing on Allison, but I want to shift gears and talk a little bit about Mariah's brother named Morgan. Morgan has turned to the media a handful of times to drag Mariah's name through the mud. While exclusives and tips can pay well, Mariah has always felt betrayed by her siblings for essentially selling her out. And Morgan has done Mariah very dirty. I mean, maybe even worse than Allison in my opinion, because Morgan still does interviews where he speaks about Mariah, her drug use, her mental health, her alcoholism, just a bunch of crap that you should never say about your sibling, let alone share with the world.
My concern is that she's coping with a medical condition, which is fine if you're compliant with your medication, which she isn't. I would say that she struggles with the legacy of bipolarity and alcoholism, which she inherited from our mother. She has been taking bipolar meds since 2001. So mixing those medications with alcohol, especially in the quantities that she drinks, sooner or later, it's not going to end happily ever after.
At this point, Morgan doesn't know who Mariah is, so I don't know why he feels so confident speaking about her, but he also shares stories that ultimately make Mariah look bad and get her into trouble. Like, he shared one story where Mariah was speaking poorly about Whitney, and like, I just don't understand why he's bringing this up, because it only makes it worse for Mariah in the long run, because she's gonna have to deal with what her brother and her sister are saying about her.
We were in her trailer at the Loverboy video, and she was talking about Whitney, and she was talking about Whitney running around, like Whitney had visited her, and Whitney was running around holding a crack pipe, and she was like, "Oh, boo-hoo, poor Whitney." Not in a destructive way, but just she was saying, "Oh, you know, poor Whitney. I felt so bad for her. She's such a mess."
Right.
And when I reflect and I think back about that conversation, I'm like, hello. My worst fear would be that she would be the next headline.
Have you ever seen her not drinking?
No, certainly not since 2001.
So Morgan has a lot of stories that he likes to tell about Mariah, but Mariah did ultimately clap back in her book. Mariah exposed Morgan for essentially being a hitman. As an adult, Mariah remembers how Morgan and her mother came to her and told her how her mom's second husband was threatening to ruin her career by revealing family secrets. She says Morgan asked for $5,000 to take care of the guy and no one would ever know. Mariah was shocked that her family would suggest such a plan. So that's really embarrassing for Morgan, because Mariah accuses him of this crime and labels him as a failed hitman. In her book, she writes about one time when she was 6 years old, her older brother Morgan lashed out at their mother during an argument and threw her against the wall. Mariah was terrified that he had killed her and stood there glued to the spot until police came.
When you've been traumatized your whole life, you were raised in a family of chaos. Can you just sort of summarize? You had a brother who was enraged.
Extremely violent, yes.
And unpredictably so. So the thing when you're living in an environment where you don't know where it's going to come from, you're always constantly walking on eggshells in a state of anxiety yourself.
I have no doubt that Morgan was this man that Mariah is describing. He seems like that kind of guy. And she also talks about a story back in 1980 when a woman asked him to kill her husband for $30,000. He was given $1,200 up front, but never went through with it. So again, he's a failed hitman. If you're going to be a criminal, at least be a successful one, right? I mean, we don't want to wish death upon anyone, but it is shady. But this book that Mariah Carey released was very telling, and she also spoke about her mother, Patricia, and what she went through dealing with her, because Mariah's had issues with every single person in her family. As far as the stories that Mariah has about her mother, she definitely held back on those, and I think it's because she still has a relationship with her. But Allison has spoken out against Patricia and what she's done to her. For instance, Allison accuses her mother of letting strangers sexually abuse her when she was a child and involving her in satanic rituals, which she ultimately sued her for. Like, Allison sued Patricia for all of this damage. And that's something that Mariah seems to avoid in her book. She doesn't necessarily bring up her mother, and she does appear to still support her. She went on to Andy Cohen's show to promote her book, and here's what she has to say.
You delve into a lot of your complicated family history. You know, you characterized famously your relationship with them at one point to you being an ATM machine with the wig on. Have you heard from your mom about the book?
No, really, that's its own thing. And when she decides, if she decides to read it, I hope he feels okay about it. I don't agree with everything she's done with her life. I don't necessarily understand it. I still take care of her to this day. And yeah, it's difficult to talk about that stuff.
Honestly, seeing Mariah in that interview, I see someone who is damaged. I mean, she's put together, she's beautiful, she's successful, but she's probably pretty alone. I mean, thank God she has her beautiful children because she's been able to create a family unit of her own, but there's always going to be that lingering pain from her siblings who have ultimately exploited her entire life. And it's not like Allison and Morgan had a super rough upbringing. I mean, we don't know the details necessarily because Allison never came out with the book that she was promoting, but I do know that Allison inherited $1.6 million from their father, Alfred. So she set up trust funds for her kids and I guess did what she needed to do with that money, but it's still $1.6 million and she ultimately spent it all on her drug addiction. So Allison's a sick person, Morgan's a sick person, and you cannot put that blame onto Mariah. So if Mariah doesn't want to go and support these people, then she shouldn't have to. I mean, she was given $1.6 million in 2002 and Allison made the choices that she made. I have sympathy for her for being an addict, but you cannot put blame onto Mariah for Allison's doing. As I was doing research for this video, I tried to figure out what Morgan and Allison were up to nowadays. I couldn't really find much, but I did find this random article titled Mariah Carey's sister gets her social security back because I guess she was struggling to get her social security. I don't know why this is an article because it's all about Allison Carey's like social security benefits being restored. I guess she had lost her benefits and she made a public plea about this. She was getting $794 a month through social security income, but then her benefits were being cut $30 a month due to overpayment, which ultimately dropped her, you know, the money that she's receiving from the government. And I guess she made a fuss about this. I really don't know why this is news. I guess because it's Mariah Carey's sister and Mariah Carey's extremely rich. So to hear Allison Carey struggling with Social Security just seems bizarre. But yeah, I'm kind of like honestly over the media giving any of these people attention. And I like what Mariah told Oprah Winfrey because she claims that these people don't even really know who she is. So who are they to go and speak about her life?
We don't even really know each other. And that's the thing, when they were out there and telling and selling stories, I'm like, but you guys, we didn't grow up together. By the time I got into the world, you know, they had already been damaged.
And they resented you because of the color of your skin, right? Because they were also biracial, but you were lighter and they felt like you were passing.
Mariah said that beautifully. And honestly, I think that she's healed from this. I mean, she's speaking as someone who's gone through a lot of self-reflection, probably therapy and healing. And that's really important. Honestly, I'm on Mariah's side because I see so many other celebrities where their siblings like just put them through the ringer. I mean, look at Britney Spears and Jamie Lynn Spears. That's a perfect example. But here's my email if you guys have any other video ideas for me. Let's go ahead and open this P.O. Box package item. I'm just gonna go ahead and like... Oh, Sloan, I wanted to start out by telling you how much I love your channel. Thank you for always being a highlight in my day. Every single morning while I do my makeup, I listen to your videos and catch up on the latest gossip. Oh my gosh, I've been trying to like film some more, but I haven't lately. Ugh. In return, I thought it would be fun to give you something to listen to also. After watching your channel for a very long time, it has become apparent that we both share the same love for Britney Spears. I'm actually a singer and songwriter and a fellow pop enthusiast. Sonically, I draw inspiration from people like Britney Spears. I decided to make this package a millennial's dream and take it all the way back to the early 2000s. I made you a one-of-a-kind CD of my music and included an old boombox to play. Oh my gosh, I hope you like the songs and I can't wait to hear what you think. That is so sweet. Thank you, Melissa. And let's go ahead and see like what is going on here because I see, oh my gosh, I see a full boombox. This is so cute. I love this. If you want to be my lover. Oh my gosh, this is so sweet. I'm so excited. Oh my gosh, and this is your CD. Stop. Okay, wait, is this your CD or is it in here? Oh, like it fell out of the, okay. Oh my gosh, look how hot this is. You are hot. I'm gonna have to like cover up. I don't know if I have to. I think it's fine. Wow, this is so hot, Melissa. Shut up. I'm gonna have to check out your stuff. And then look at the boombox. If you want to be my lover. Cute. It's so classic looking too. I love it. With the plug and everything. This is such a vibe. Oh my gosh. I cannot wait to check it out and listen to your music. This is so cute. Thank you so much. If you guys ever want to send me anything, my P.O. box is listed below, but I'll see you guys in a new video soon. Thank you, Melissa.